In this video, we're going to go over using jQuery and the jQuery UI to do some really nice JavaScript stuff. The jQuery library is essentially an enhanced version of JavaScript, which wraps components of JavaScript so that we can use it really nicely. And we're going to use the jQuery UI so that we can actually dress up some of our elements very nicely as well. And it's very easy to implement jQuery and jQuery UI, so that's why I've chosen to go ahead and do this. Just gives us one way that we can actually go ahead and make our views again more powerful. So with this, the jQuery stuff that we'll be doing today is in the World Manager themed jQuery.war file. And that will include everything we need to make it work, including all the scripts and CSSs that we need in order for it to work. But I want to show you where I got all that so that you would know and have that information available should you decide that jQuery and the jQuery UI is a path you would want to take for your Vue or UI components. One of the places that I went to is jQuery.com/download. And basically, we just need to get the production version of jQuery 1.10.2. That's the most recent one at the time of this recording. And you can right-click on it and simply say, Save Link As. And when you do that, it will essentially download your script. If you just click on it, it will actually just bring you to the jQuery page. And that's a little more tedious. You can copy and paste that into a file, sure. But it's a lot easier if you just right-click and say, Save Link As, and then it'll bring you to your Downloads folder where you can save it. So I already have it saved there, along with the UI, which we'll see in a second. That's all we need from the jQuery download. The other page I'm going to go to is jQuery UI. Now again, these are essentially libraries that we can use. And so here what I've done is I've actually started already at the theme roller. But if you do some research on jQuery UI, you can find out how to get to the theme roller. And there's the link to this exact page. And this will be in a file, of course, for you in the WAR file, so you don't have to worry about writing anything down. But what I did was went ahead and chose a theme that sort of matches what we had already for our color scheme with the browns and oranges and blacks and grays. And I just chose one that they had. Now I did that through the gallery. I chose UI darkness. If you wanted, you could choose any of these and change the way things are going to look very easily on your pages. It's very nice because it's already done for you. All you have to do is download the information and know how to use it. Again, jQuery is going to be outside of the scope of this course, but just getting it set up and using it's pretty straightforward and easy. And so we're just going to do a couple quick things with it. So you download the custom version of the theme roller here that we got for UI darkness. Once you get that done, we'll go back into our Eclipse and see how we get this all set up. So we need to add into our CSS the UI darkness, which includes the images and the jQuery UI, custom.min.css and custom.css. So obviously .min is going to be a little more compressed, a little less resources to load. So that's what you'd want to use in production. And it includes all the images you need in order to make your pages look a lot nicer. Again, all this is given to us in the download for UI darkness. Just make sure we nest that in our CSS folder. We also need to include now a JS folder. And in the JS folder for JavaScript, what we're going to have is two scripts. jQuery 1.10.2.min, which we right-clicked and said save as, got the latest version. And the jQuery UI 1.10.3.custom.min.js, which came with the UI darkness download as well. So we just need to make sure to put these in the correct place. Now, the other nice thing about the UI darkness, when we download it, we actually look at the folder. We get along with that a page called index.html, which allows us to easily see some of the components in action and have that code for reference. So you can look into that in more detail. But you can see right here is the JS folder, and in there are our scripts that we need. And that comes with a lesser version of jQuery. We don't need that. We already downloaded 1.10. Just go ahead and use the one we already had. And then we'll also see, here's our UI darkness folder with all the information we need from that. So we basically just import that information, copy and paste it into our project. And now it just becomes a matter of referencing it correctly and actually working with some jQuery to do some nice things. So I'm going to show you two things with this real quickly, and then the rest of it will be up to you to do more research should you decide to take this path. I left index.html in here as well, so we can actually load that and see all the components. And here's index.jsp. These are the pages we really care about. At the top, once again, we have two style sheets to implement. So we have one CSS that we need to import, and that's the UI darkness jQuery UI 1.10.3.custom.min.css. And again, we need to reference that correctly. So in add city and our protected areas, we'd be doing .. And then we have the two scripts for the jQuery itself and the jQuery UI. Now, both of those will allow us to do some scripting right on our page with all the jQuery library intact. It loads it into the page DOM element, and we're good to go. Now, this is a little bit of jQuery syntax, and all this block here is going to do is run a function once the document is loaded. So what we're doing is we're adding the hover so that when we hover over the button, we can actually see the CSS style change, and will allow us to then see the change in the button. And here we have one more jQuery command, which is going to give us the ability to remove the class active from all the list items. If the list item matches by ID, this pound is just an ID indicator instead of a class. The dot is a class, and the pound is the ID. This home link then will add the class active. And so all of the pages have the similar text on the top for this function script, which will allow us to have our UI state hover on our buttons and change around to the different menu items. And then, of course, all of them have to have references to the style sheets and all the JavaScript in the correct locations. So once we get that all in place, we can actually then see that each page will change its list item active state, and each page will implement the functionality of the jQuery UI as well as the jQuery script. So we can see now, once we run our page with our jQuery UI in place and our jQuery commands, the home has now identified itself as the active tab. When we click on login, again, the login will identify itself as the active tab. And it's just changing classes, and that allows our CSS to then style the page the way we wanted it to. And you can see here, we have one button element which has changed that now includes all the UI state elements. It has rounded corners. It's going to have a hover here in a second from the jQuery that we added. Let's go ahead and remember ourselves here. When we hover over the button, you can see now this button looks a lot nicer than the default one. It has our color scheme as implemented. We sign in, everything's good to go. We look at our cities. Again, we haven't done anything with the tables yet, but that's beyond the scope. And essentially here, we never even modified this button. So if you wanted to practice, you could do that as well. But that basically wraps up looking at jQuery. If we wanted to see real quick that login button, it does change a little bit when we're using the button. Instead of an input, now we're going to change it to a button, and it essentially has to modify the class to match UI button, UI widget, UI state default, UI corner all, UI button text only, and the add hover. And the add hover I put on there because that allows us to use that class in our jQuery script right here to say if add hover, then add that hover element. Like I said, I did leave the index page in place. So if you just want to see all of the code and how you would work with the different elements from the jQuery UI, that's all included here. And I know that was really fast, but you can look through this on your own. But essentially, you could actually just run this right in the project as well. That's why I left it in here. So we can see some of this stuff in play. You can see it's got some really nice accordion elements that are already set up, an autocomplete function. There's some different things. And then there's our hover, some different choices if you wanted to do that. A tabbed element, which is really nice. A dialog to open a dialog. Shows you how to do that all in the UI. So it's really nice, and it gives you sliders and calendar controls and different things that you can do very easily. But that wraps up our brief look at jQuery. Again, jQuery is outside the scope of the course, so if you do decide to go that path, there are many resources available for you on that.